Good evening and welcome. This is the November 18th meeting of the school committee. Call the meeting to order 5 o'clock. The meeting is being both audio and video recorded tonight, and I would ask that folks please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. I would ask for a roll call. Sam, if you could start, please.
Samantha Velasquez, Secretary.
Pamela Blair, Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Sarah Trulio.
Gordon Smith, Superintendent of Schools.
Gregory Thompson.
Antonella Rochella.
William Strother.
Amy Delenta.
Emmanuel Garcia, Student Representative.
Thank you all. I have minutes for approval, please. Take a motion.
To approve the November 4th, 2024 regular session meeting minutes.
Made by Sarah, second by William. Discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 5-0. Thank you, Samantha. Committee and subcommittee communications. Sarah, would you like to
I
start?
don't have any tonight.
Okay.
I don't have
No?
any tonight.
William? None tonight. Amy, on a roll.
I just have two things to share. The first thing is that I attended the statewide meeting of school committees this past Friday in Hyannis. I went to the delegate assembly, and the one thing that I just wanted to report back was that all of the resolutions that were discussed that we all brought to the table as well, they all passed there. So that was one thing I wanted to share. The second thing I wanted to share was that I attended the National Honor Society induction at the high school last week. It was a wonderful ceremony. Mrs. Petrie, I believe, is the advisor. She did an excellent job organizing and that ceremony. The students were fantastic. As a school committee member and a mom, I think I'll speak for Sarah, but chime in here as well. I'm excited to attend the Junior National Honor Society induction this coming week as well. So a lot of great stuff we're seeing from our students.
Yeah.
Good week. Yeah.
Good stuff. Yes. Thank you, Amy. Emmanuel.
The only thing I have is that last weekend we had about 10 different students try out for all states and districts for band, chorus, and orchestra. I don't know how many got in, but to my knowledge, I know 2 of our band members got in.
Nice.
Very cool.
It's awesome.
Great. Thank you for that. Okay, Mr. Smith and I were speaking. We're going to cancel the December 2nd meeting. That's all right with folks? Done. And then this Friday at 9:30, just a reminder, we have the groundbreaking for the high school. If anybody can make it.
Meeting here.
Yeah, come on here. You can meet here.
Invitation.
9:30 is when it starts. It's going to be set up outside between the tennis courts and the stadium.
Okay.
You're certainly welcome to
I'll probably
come here, but we're going to
come.
try to be out
Okay.
there for just before 9:30.
All right. I'll come here around 9:15.
There will be a tent because the only rain that's been in the forecast for probably the last month
I know.
is Thursday and Friday. So
All right. We'll make it work. Boots.
Okay, excellent. Now we have an opportunity for visitors to address the committee. If anybody's interested in doing so tonight, I would ask them to come forward. Seeing none, we're moving right along. We have the FY 2025 financial report.
Yeah, so right to the very important.
Jump right in.
Can I just make note that typically I do the quarterly report, which would be September. But as the month of September was coming along and I was working on the end of year report, I was seeing an immense amount of expenditures coming through. So made me a little anxious. And so once I got through the September the end of year report, I started to focus on the financials. And what I'm seeing is I wanted to show you the picture as of the end of October. I'm going to go right to page 5, which is where I put the spreadsheet together as your financial update. Salaries are in the top section of the report here. Most salaries are encumbered at the beginning of the year. You will see that there are some lines that show available balances here. And those are like coaches, athletic game staff, they're hourly. So not encumbered, at the beginning of the year. What I also wanted to show you was that the projected end of year balance is there because I am seeing a lot of special ed expenditures. I kind of wanted to just look and see what am I projecting here. So at this point in time, at the end of October, I'm projecting about 150,000 remaining in teacher line items. The permanent building subs are in with the substitute line item there. I just wanted to remind people of that we have about 385,000 in substitutes and about 115,000 are the permanent building subs. So those are not encumbered either because those are paid the daily rate. Any of these balances that are remaining there, like the clerical or custodial, there's longevity that's paid at year end, and that's why you see balances there. What I do want everybody to know is we've been very busy these first few months of the school year. We had 28 Unit A new hires, 29 paraprofessional new hires. There's 15 leave of absences. And there's 42 degree advancements, which is a huge amount. That's double what typically comes through. Normally, we have about 20, which adds up to about $25,000. This year, it's 42 degree advancements, and that's already at $75,000. So that's in addition to the regular salary. Does that make sense?
Are most of those degree advancements coming from ELPS University or a mixture?
It's a mixture.
Yeah.
Yep. So what I want to remind folks is that 83% of our budget is on the salary side of the budget. So that's $30 million out of the $35 million. Does anyone have any specific questions on the salary? Okay, the bottom section are the expense line items, which again, that's about 17% of our budget. Most of these line items are just spent throughout the year. They aren't encumbered at the beginning, educational supplies, professional development, those kind of things. I do want to make mention on the collaborative vocational tuition line that's in the middle there. There is about $205,000 in special ed voc tuition. So I do need to move that up. On the next report, you'll see that will change because I'll move that up to with the special ed out of district tuitions. That makes sense. So what that does leave in that line item, just so that the vocational tuitions have increased over the last few years. I think COVID has changed some things, and we have $447,000 in collaborative voc tuitions. So on the bottom section there for the expense, I do anticipate being able to project a balance of 40,000 there. So collectively with the 150 from salary side and the 40,000 on the expense side, I project about $190,000 remaining in the operating budget, which again will be helpful with special ed expenditures that I'm seeing. Any other questions?
I mean, the out of district is running in the negative right now.
That's just a very small amount. Yeah.
Okay.
So the way with the tuitions, because with special ed, we have three funding sources. We have the operational budget, the IDEA grant, and then on top of that, we have circuit breaker revenue, which is reimbursements from the prior year's special ed expenditures at 75% for those that qualify. So what we try to do always first is to expend our operational budget lines because there is something called maintenance of effort that we need to show that as a district, we are continuing to support special education and not just relying on like federal funds and state funds. So this is where, as these expenditures were coming in and I was seeing more and more of them, and I started to really, take a step back and look at my operational lines. I said, wait a minute here, I can't. So I cut off the operational budget and then shifted over to circuit breaker and IDEA. So of course, the next one after operational, I try to then go to IDEA grant because we want to use up the IDEA grant funds. And then lastly, the circuit breaker, because just as a reminder, circuit breaker, those funds that we get in as a district can be rolled over into the next fiscal year to help offset budget expenses. Okay, so then why don't we go to the next page, which is your grants. Most of our grants are entitlement grants, meaning that we get them every single year, the Title I, Title II, Title IV. I always give you a write-up, and back in September, you all approved all of the grants. I just want to remind you that ESSER 3, that's the big one. That was $2.2 million, which helped us significantly over the last 3 years. The last of those funds is for the Meadowbrook Playground Project, which is coming to closure right now. I believe that this week they're supposed to come out and put the fence in. And so this will be zeroed out, and we're all very excited about that whole project. The other grants are just, as I said, the entitlement grants. And I don't know if anyone has any specific questions on the grants. I will say as the grants are, so the way the grants work is as they are expended, then I request a monthly drawdown from the grant from DESI. So you spend it and then you get the revenue after the fact. Okay, so the third page, that's the most important right now, is our revolving accounts. And start at the top, I put a negative balance there for athletic because there's still revenues that's going to come in. And the reason I changed this out, because as I was looking at the bigger picture, I don't typically put in the encumbered for revolving accounts, but this was a significant amount for special ed. So I felt compelled to just bring that clear picture to all of you. So I think it's important we just go right to the circuit breaker account, which is showing we rolled over $1,038,000. The revenue to date is $862,000. We've expended $667,000. The encumbered $2.7 million. This is in addition to the operating budget. This is in addition to IDEA. So at this point in time, I'm projecting $1.4 million deficit. That's where I needed to remind you that we're going to get $823,000 in additional revenue, but that still leaves us with a projected $646,000 deficit, which wouldn't really be, just to be clear, in the circuit breaker line. I will have to move those expenditures back to the operating budget to show the deficit there, and then hopefully transfer funds from, then if we go down to school choice, the last line there, I'm just going to remind you, when the school committee voted to participate once again in the school choice program, it was discussed having the school choice funds become a possible resource for the special ed accounts when unanticipated costs occur. So that would be my recommendation. We do have the funds there at the end of the year. There's going to be $952,000. I am hoping that things will change and that perhaps we won't need the full amount. There's the possibility with circuit breaker, when you do have an exorbitant amount of expenditures, you can apply for circuit breaker.
Something relief, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you, Gordon. Extraordinary relief, which there was one year that we received about $350,000 because the expenditures were up. And the good thing about that is that cannot be rolled over. You have to use it in the current year. We won't know that though until April when that happens. So I just wanted to throw that out there to you.
And is this page detailing where that's coming from?
Yeah, so I just wanted, then the last page there, I tried to break it out to show you exactly what special ed actually looks like. The operating budget, I listed out the accounts there. There's about $2.1 million in the operating budget lines there. The grant, the IDEA, that's $894,000. And then circuit breaker altogether, $2.7 million. There's a few things that I think have happened here. I think it's important to recognize that it is a volatile account and it's changing constantly. Move-ins, move-outs. Kids could be in the district in a having some services and then it's deemed necessary to outplace them. And these can add up very quickly, as you can see. We've got a change in placement. When I go back to that snapshot I took for the budget purposes back in like February, I was expecting that student to be at an expenditure of like $33,000. The reality is there was a change in placement, $256,000. Another one, I was expecting.
Let me just add to that.
Sure.
So the challenge here is that as you're developing a budget, as Mrs. Blair was saying, you're doing that in December, January, and February. And you have all these projections because you're looking at the changes in placement. So these were students that were already out of district. They were already placed out. The unfortunate thing is that there's a few things going on. One, obviously, you do have annual meetings anyway.
Mhm.
That doesn't always necessarily change a placement. What's been going on the last few years, and I think it's now starting to catch not only LPS, but probably other districts as well, is that some of the out-of-district placements, schools with whom we have a long-standing history are no longer accepting some of our students. And so in team meetings, such as the example here that happened in May, where you had a $33,000 placement, obviously there was a team change and you went from 33,000 as the tuition for last year. And this year the tuition became 256,000. That's an incredible increase. And it's an entirely a change in placement in terms of it's a new out of district placement. It's not the old placement or old school.
Why are those schools no longer accepting?
They're just more selective. They can be more selective because
Gotcha.
we're one of many. We're
Yeah, we're not the only
from any other.
group asking
For
for
those
placements. And so and many times what we hear is we don't have the staff to handle X.
Mhm.
And so it becomes really challenging to find out of district placements when you have some situations where you have an incredible comprehensive list of needs, put it that way.
There's one on here that's out of state day tuition. Is that, there's nothing within area that,
It's a very specialized, very specialized program.
does that also come with transportation costs?
Mhm.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So every time that there's a
And that
out
actually
of district placement,
is an excellent point.
That's
As,
jumped.
one of the other pieces is that Circuit Breaker over the last 2 years started to recognize transportation,
Mhm.
part of the funding formula. Remember, with Circuit Breaker, your reimbursement rate is 75% of eligible costs that are above the threshold. Threshold, I think last year was around
52,000, I think.
around 52,000.
It's only those expenditures above that.
52,000.
Mm.
However, when they've added transportation, first, all the reimbursement goes to instruction and tuition. Then whatever's left over is reimbursed for transportation. And they had so many requests for reimbursement for transportation that last year's requests were funded not at 75%, but at 40%. So that reduced our expectation of Circuit Breaker revenue this year by at least 150,000.
50,000. We also had a circuit breaker audit. They came in and again, I want to remind you that when I say this, it's really a minimal amount when you think about that the revenue that we get from the circuit breaker reimbursement at $1.6 billion. The audit, we had to take back $39,640, which again is a very minimal amount for all of the paperwork that goes into that report. What did I want? The other thing that became very apparent was that at year end in FY24, so at the end of every fiscal year, as we're putting things to the budget to closure, typically a business manager, we can legally prepay for special ed tuitions. And it's very prudent to try to do so if you can for obvious reasons. So typically before we had all that ESSER funding, it would be about $100,000 to $200,000 at the end of the fiscal year that we try to prepay into the following year. With ESSER for the last 3 years, it's been more like $300,000 to $500,000 just because it frees up. It just trickles down. It's just the way it was at the end of FY24. So as these things are happening and kids move in, it takes a little bit of time for all this to. And at year end, I was not able to do any special ed prepays. So if the year before I did a $500,000 prepay, and then this year I wasn't able to, that's another component here, another piece. Also, I just want to remind everybody, I was out with surgery from mid-March till almost the end of April, working at home after about a month. And so I'm not sure if that's also a part here. I just need to say that because I do, as you can imagine, feel immensely responsible. I mean, it's my job to bring you the good news, but it's also my job to bring you the bad news. And this is definitely, we have a place. to correct this for this year, but it is going to have a snowball effect for FY 26 budget. How can it not? I mean, if this is $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again,
Real issue. Yeah.
it is a real issue. And you're hearing districts talk about ESSER funding and the ESSER cliff, and you never voted to, you didn't want to add in bodies, new positions. However, what is real is that these behavioral issues are real out here in the world, and we're not any different. And we still need to take care of the kids. And so how did we do that? Through contracted services, which is an immense amount of money. I have some of these contracts that were like $200,000 to $300,000 a couple of years ago or before COVID, that now we're at like $700,000, $800,000. Like, we're paying outside vendors to come in to help us, because we need the help. We can't do it with just the way. So we've talked about that over the last few years during budget.
So do we know on a state level, to that same point, if all communities are in need of more funding, as it seems we all are working the ladder collectively together, is the state historically match that, or are we going to be all fighting for the same dollars and thus
In terms of circuit breaker?
not get the same circuit breaker funding? Because what I see is we spend more on special ed costs, we should get more circuit breaker next year.
Yes,
But if every district is under the same pressure
correct, because
in the state bucket.
there have been some years when we weren't at 75%. If you remember, when I first started like 10 years ago, I used to say, oh, here's the 72% and here's 73, which, when you're talking about that large of a number, that percent can be significant. So yes, that very well could happen, Greg. I don't know. Jordan was recently at a
State
meeting.
Association, both Superintendent's Association and probably, I would imagine, Business Managers Association are looking to lobby the legislature for this year to look at especially the transportation piece, where people were expecting to be reimbursed at 75% and they got reimbursed at 40 to 44%. And so there may be, if we're successful in that lobbying of the legislature, there may be some gap filling there with extra money. What we'll have to do going forward is continue to work with our state senator and two reps to make sure that they keep circuit breaker at least at 75%, if not, it has to be done at the legislature.
Right. But if every district is facing this exact issue, will they be able to sustain it without massive increase in the circuit breaker funding itself, which
Yeah.
is an uphill
I think
climb.
we're definitely going to hear a lot more about this because we're not alone. I mean,
We also have to deal with it then on a local level. And then do we start the conversation in terms of funding special education at a higher level, which means
Increase.
a significant
Operational
increase
budget.
over, level services.
Mhm.
It could mean another 1 or 2%.
Because
We're fully fund,
even if we were to use, we would be fortunate this year to be able to lean into school choice, but that wouldn't be
You wouldn't be
sustainable.
able
Not sustainable.
No.
Can only do it this year.
This
Yeah.
year, and then that's,
Don't forget the $1 million prepaid that we're going to now use and not leave.
Right.
Prepaid, or not prepaid, but the rollover
so we're not going to have,
of the $1 million for next year.
You're not going to roll over.
so
the circuit.
what I'm
Yes.
saying.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, that-
Yes, thank you. I just want to make sure it was clear that I don't foresee us having any rollover,
Right.
which
starting next year without the typical rollover
Yes.
circuit breaker that we've
We're
relied
already
on,
$1 million in the
Yes.
hole to start.
essentially.
potentially.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I have,
You still have to play out the rest of the year looking at, because remember, encumbered is not expended.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So we have to look at that and make sure.
but I got to tell you,
Costs are what they are.
That could go even
Yes.
higher.
Yeah, it could.
I was
The whole-
really hoping that as I was delving into the detail and checking, and I was really hoping I was going to see some kind of duplicate, from IDEA to circuit breaker or to the operating. I'm not seeing it. I really wish that I had better news, but this is what I'm seeing. I mean, there's always the chance, as Gordon says, things change very quickly. I also put at the bottom of your sheet, I just wanted to let you know there's other things that happen, like last year we had a DCF placement, which came in like mid-year. So what does that cost us this year? $74,000 that we weren't anticipating. We had another DCF placement with a tuition cost share of $220,000. So there's a lot that's out of our control, and yeah.
Is the transportation, the in-district transportation, that's inclusive of the shift to using the trolleys as well?
Yes.
Yes, everything.
That's still that high.
Yeah. And again, as you said, every time that there's a movement or a new placement, transportation, and some of these are really, I was really, and again, delving into the weeds of all of this, and it could be $400 a day for a student at 180, school days. Sometimes you can try to cost share with sometimes these kids can't be on a bus with somebody else. They have to be by themselves. So there's a lot. And then behind the scenes, any of those additional therapy services. Sometimes they need a one-to-one. We had a student that came unexpected into kindergarten this year. We needed a one-to-one nurse. We had no choice. Had to have a one-to-one nurse with the student. So, sometimes they're medically fragile, sometimes it's behavior, but there's a lot happening in the district. So I wish I had better news to tell you, but I do think that going forward, I don't think I will be doing a quarterly to you. I will be coming, after we get through Thanksgiving. I'd like to close out November and come back again in the December meeting to just tell you, because I feel like this is going to be, we need to just be on top of it. And again, as Gordon said, things can change quickly. They are encumbrances, which doesn't mean that they're expended, but there's a very good chance that they are going to be expended. So
Think in January, potentially, maybe we should meet with Tom, Connor, whomever else, Kim and whatnot, just to start this conversation. We'll have a better picture perhaps then.
right. And then, of course, now that I've gotten this dreaded meeting over with, that I was looking forward to, I now need to start working about, FY26 to move all of the bargaining units up so we can start to take a look at that as well. And again, as a reminder, we did have a new contract with Unit A, and some of those rates were, pretty significant, but yeah, just another moving piece, that's all. And paraprofessionals, we had moved them up because they were so far behind in their hourly rate. So, there's a lot of moving pieces. But again, I'm going to continue to monitor the accounts and keep you apprised of the situation.
And if fund transfers are necessary, that'll be later.
Yeah, so what I thought I would do now is I needed to show you where the operating budget was. Because again, as I was seeing these come in, and I said, wait a minute, I don't have the budget line. So we moved it to circuit breaker, but we don't have it there either. But I need to shift it back to the operating so we can see it and then request the transfers from school choice. And it's up to you how you would prefer I do that. Do you want me, I could wait a few months to see, or when I come in December after the end of November's totals, I could move things over and already request some of the transfers. Maybe that's best, right? Okay, that's what I'll do for you.
Okay. Any other questions for Pam tonight?
Thanks for being on top of it, Pam. I mean,
Yeah.
better to know it now than to find out in January.
Yes.
Gives us more opportunity to,
Maybe
Proactive.
we'll have better news.
yeah.
Yes, I sure hope so.
Hoping that encumbered doesn't become expended all the way.
Right.
We'll be sharing a lot of this information and even more specifically with the leadership team on Thursday so that we can start to be more strategic in how we're looking at many different things.
Okay. Thank you, Pam, for that. We accept the financial report, perhaps,
Oh, yes, thank you.
in a motion, to such a thing. We're not taking it.
Move to accept what was the date? The October
31st.
31st, 2024 financial report as presented.
Motion made by Sarah,
Second.
second by Antonella. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 5-0. Thank you again, Pam. Appreciate it. Okay, back on to advertising in school district property.
Okay, in your packets, you have the draft that you saw at the last meeting, and that was advertising on school district property KHB. And I believe you also saw KHB-R, which was rules and regulations. And this was modeled after both West Springfield's policy and Acton Boxborough's policy. And then through the discussion, you had asked that we look at a request form or, I guess it would just be a request form because the other two districts that we modeled it after actually use it as a district fundraiser. But in this case, this would be more around historically looking at what comes to East Long Meadow School Committee, town groups that have donors, maybe business owners in town, and then they usually thank them or they have some type of sign, might be advertising for the business. So KHB-E is a way for those town groups, whether it be the rec department or a booster group or some other town affiliated group, to put in a request that would come to all of you. And then ultimately, if approved, it would be voted on at a school committee meeting and then signed by the chair. Also, in the packet, I updated the, at least in draft form, the use of school facilities because this could trigger, as someone's filling this out, it could trigger the request to advertise. So, and that actually was Mr. Thompson's idea. He picked up on that as I was discussing it with him. He said, oh, we should probably have two links. So we do now, if these meets all of your likings.
Do we have, I just haven't seen in here, a way to support the organizations who will be coming to us with a timeline? Like if you want to put something up, wait, how far in advance should they be trying to get onto our agenda, and should they make that appeal? Would it be to the chair? Would it be to?
I mean, that we can certainly take the request here in central office and then set it up on the agenda for the school committee, but it's an excellent point. You're always looking at school committee meeting times. So I would say at least 30 days in advance of when you want
Would that be
advertising. We should probably
in the rules and regulations, maybe?
could start and then we can put it also on the other form.
Yeah.
And then in terms of, I see on here that we have a contact person on request to advertise on school district property, the actual form. I know, like, for instance, we've talked about the duration being for some purposes, the length of a sporting event.
Right.
But there, like even now, there's current advertisements for certain events on school grounds that have since passed. So do we have like a contact person for removal? Because it shouldn't be on the school to remove a sign.
Right now, we don't have any contact people, but we could.
There are a lot of signs up right now, like for, not the attendance ones, but
Sort of the
for
5K runs and.
runs. There's some up for like cross country. There's some up for fairs that are in other towns. And like just making sure that we have a mechanism here that says if they're going to be on school grounds for the purpose of advertising for an event, should there be something that says within a week of the event's completion, like it has to come down or something to that effect? And
Well, so I think we should add to this form duration of sign posted, and then we'll have in writing when they expect the sign to be put in and when it's to be.
I'd also
And
add,
then it will, if I just,
no.
okay.
Go- No, I'm kidding.
It's not that, it's not that good of a point. Go ahead, please.
No, go.
I forget now.
I was talking about the dates.
dates on.
I was agreeing with you. We should put the dates that they want it advertised and
Yes.
where. Like
Yes.
which,
Where the sign's
where's the,
going.
yes.
Yeah.
Where's the- Which locations are they?
Then it gives the
looking to
school
put it up?
committee in the future the chance to approve it or not based on duration, based on
Mhm.
what it says.
Location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like the stuff that's up there now is, they're worthy
Well,
events.
Those
It's
signs,
just,
it's not gonna come here.
They
The one that
didn't
sticks
necessarily
around,
bring it to the school.
why wouldn't they?
They really shouldn't be doing it.
Right, but if they do want to do that,
Well, I don't know that we're gonna encourage sticking in the ground signs. Is that allowed by the?
You can.
Okay.
that's what I'm saying, like it would be
Yeah.
potentially something, but then to the point, like They should come down after the event occurs.
Yes, which should be stipulated in how long if they say the event's over November 15th, it should be out November 15th.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with, I know one of the things in here says, sorry, I feel like I'm jumping around. Public service announcement or announcement of events directly related to the services of the East Long Meadow Public Schools or East Long Meadow Town Departments. That one is an exemption and an exception that it wouldn't have to come to school committee. However, we should still have some language there that they also
They need to take
come
it down.
down. Because signups for certain things have ended.
Yep.
And there are signs up on almost every piece of school property
Yeah.
for certain.
Yeah.
signs.
Such as, I think you have basketball. signups right now, but that sign up probably has come to a close.
3 weeks ago, I think.
We need sign police in this town.
Hmm?
Sign police? You want the job, Sarah?
No, thank you.
You're good at it.
The committee.
It's my job to be informed, and this is part of being informed, Greg.
That's right.
Someone to be on the
But
committee.
Greg, then who's responsible for policing and or taking these things down?
The hope, it
That would
sounds
be-
like, would be the person
Vendor?
who is the contact.
Okay.
Now, there is no designated person. Sometimes it's the superintendent when he gets out of his car at the top of a driveway and pulls it. Other times it might be principal, custodian, someone, and we try to pull them.
Maybe that should. be
More
also
timely fashion.
There.
Yeah, and maybe like, I don't want to say consequence in that way, but like, if they're not taken down, like next time that might not reflect positively on you being able to continue to utilize school grounds.
It's true.
No, it's very true.
I
Like,
agree. Yeah. Okay.
maybe that needs.
Said, would it not be easier to start at a clean slate? So if we approve something like this, then we remove everything that shouldn't be there. And then we know what we're starting at a clean.
Absolutely, yeah.
So on the form, KHB-E, where it says, please provide a description of proposed advertising and requested duration to add to that. And
I think we need to put
Duration.
specific things. Yeah, you need to give them
Yeah, dates,
specific
dates, sign,
location.
location, sign posted. Or something to that effect.
Should it be like what kind of sign it is when?
Well, that should be.
That should be down here, right?
Yeah.
And
Is
requested.
it a banner? Is it a?
Yeah,
Starts to become cumbersome a little bit.
I know.
I'm not a huge proponent of it coming to the school committee only because cumbersome, but I
Mhm.
don't know who else will look at it. I'm
I don't
Gordon
think-
would, but he's got other things.
and I think there's other
And I
things for
do.
the schools to be doing as well. Like I want to put that on a principal. Like a principal shouldn't have to go out and walk their
Well-
building to make the determination as to
No,
whether or
but
not signs have to
the
be down.
application could go to the principal, but I don't know that we want to do that. Okay.
I feel like that's like another layer for the principal to handle as opposed to bringing it here where
Okay, fair.
our meetings are set up in such a way that we could handle that as opposed to asking a principal to take on vetting advertisers. I don't know.
No, I agree.
Well, most of the signs that have come before you historically have been banners that they hang from the fences. I don't think you've had many that have come and asked to do
They haven't come here and asked.
lawn sign, so to speak.
They
I
just
think
put
They're there
they just go in.
up,
They just put.
which I mean is smart.
So, I
It's
mean-
very clever. Like you're getting
It is very clever.
an active.
Circumventing the rules.
It is, but if they're going to continue to want to do that, they also have to be brought into this fold as well.
So really, you could give them two choices. You could say, is this a banner type advertisement or a lawn sign type advertisement? And not many varieties, just that's.
Mhm.
Imagine that most of these will be pretty non-controversial and we won't have many issues, but I like that it's a safeguard,
It does.
keeping our families and our little ones safe from things that go against our mission. So I'm sure this will be, like, it'll be okay once it gets running, but
And then for the rules and regulations, the first page, item C. Commentary, advocacy, or promotion of issues, candidates, campaigns, or organization of social, political, religious, or rhetorical nature. How does that impact Birchland as a voting site? Because even right now, there are probably close to 10 political signs still
Still up.
up from the election. So I know that we have certain.
See, we do need sign police, though. I'm not, I'm. saying
No, I know you're.
But that's how you get rid of them. Somebody has to go pick those up.
That, but again, like, they're supposed to, even on that night of, like, would that mean every candidate would have to come here because technically they're standing on school grounds? Is that going to be an exception that we list?
I would recommend listing that as an
And
exception.
I agree with that. And
Mhm.
technically, they are supposed to be holding the signs. They are not to be planted in the ground and left. And so if they're following that,
Election.
yes.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I agree. We should list it as an exception.
And then the ones that are left up now are a lot.
I'll go get them. I'll
To go get them. I'm just saying, I can get them. I'm drive there every day. It's more just a matter of,
sit there, Sarah, after the meeting.
in this piece like that. That's just needs to be.
No, it's a
clear.
good point.
One too, like it's,
And that's the whole point, is to clean it up. And that's the only way to do it, is to set parameters. So I like it. Any other thoughts on the sign usage? You have more, Sarah?
B above it talks about tobacco. Is that also inclusive of vape? I'm not sure of the distinction between the two, or do we have to specifically call out vaping product?
Yeah.
Generally, in our policies, we have included vape as part of tobacco. You may be right.
I'm not sure.
Typically that,
Not tobacco and
yeah.
nicotine.
Yeah, it's nicotine. So maybe nicotine products.
Let's stick a comma and vape in there, perhaps. Maybe.
And only because if we're trying to get this up
Yeah.
and sustainable, should probably try to make it as all encompassing as possible.
Tobacco or nicotine products.
Okay.
Products containing nicotine.
And then, so then that would become like number 4 for exemptions and exceptions would become election day protocols.
Could speak with the town clerk and just see what the town procedure is there and just.
The line on the ground,
That's the, yeah,
how
distance
far from the
buildings.
pole,
right.
but
Probably don't talk about removal.
They're not supposed to be there.
No, it's supposed to leave with the people.
Right.
it's not supposed to be a sign without somebody
Months ahead.
with it.
Yeah. We should just, okay. Take care of it, Sarah.
The positive thing is you know who the person is to contact for a political campaign.
No doubt whatsoever.
Their name is right there, ready for you.
We want to do the revisions one more time and bring it back?
I would like to
Okay.
do the revisions one more time.
Fair enough. So be it.
Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you, Gordon.
You're welcome. Writing process is a process.
This doesn't negatively impact advertising for any of these restrictions potentially impact, especially ones that mention bars and taverns, impact sponsors of the fireworks
Oh, most definitely.
or the concert series, because that is all placed on school grounds.
There are no bars or taverns in East Long Meadow. They are all restaurants
But this language says in their name,
Mhm.
if it
in their name.
did as that.
Let's
it cannot be
reconsider that,
placed.
because that's been an issue in town, that we specifically don't have bars.
Right.
And so if a local restaurant would like to advertise, we would not like to turn them down.
And that is in here right now that we're.
So let's look at that wording, and just because it says the word bar,
Tavern.
It talks about bars and taverns.
yeah, let's
That would
take that
shut
part out.
some
That's a great
places
point.
out.
We can say that restaurants are allowed to advertise without
But it said,
advertising
but
alcohol.
Or other food establishment may not use in its advertising text the words bar, pub, or tavern, or other similar words.
the name of their establishment
Establishment, how could they,
and
Yeah,
advertise
true.
without.
Okay, good point.
we might need to, that's A, no, that is, yeah, A.
Yeah, I mean, we could not allow advertisement of bars, but just don't limit the name part of it.
Yeah, the language.
Because there, as I said, there are no, we used to have one bar. We don't have any bars anymore.
Right.
The Meadows used to be the only bar in town.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The song, I think.
So,
No. All right, are we done with? Back, no?
that's it for now.
So revise it.
Okay, we have a check from the office of the sheriff to accept. Have the details, Sam, on that?
Uh,
$7 check?
Public records request, Greg?
This was it was a subpoena for public records, yeah.
But they
Okay.
just gave the check and she'll deposit it into the gift.
So I take a motion to accept the check for $7.
Make a motion to accept $7 from the Office of the Sheriff, Hamilton County,
And we're-
to the Mountain School Fund.
Motion made by Antonella, second by William. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 5-0. And the next one, Pam, a little bit
Yes, I definitely.
different check.
Yes, I had the wonderful pleasure of speaking to Mr. William Carlisle. He lives in Florida. He was from this area. He had reached out to the high school and was interested in donating like 2,500 shares of Apple stock. And they weren't sure like what to do with this, kind of a phone call. So anyways, I reached out to him, and over the past few months, we've been going back and forth. He is amazing. As I said, he was 90 years young. He's quick as a whip. He was a railroad conductor in his past. He started to invest in the market and did pretty well at it. And at this time in his life, he would like to, as I said, donate the shares of stock to East Long Meadow. He would like to start a scholarship called the William J. Carlisle Scholarship in memory of his daughter, Roxanne Carlisle, who graduated from East Long Meadow High School. Unfortunately, she got cancer and passed away when she was only 23. That's why he'd like to do this in her name. His only request is that this money does go to students who are going into the medical field to help people, obviously. He doesn't really care if it's a doctor, a nurse, a CNA, an X-ray technician, a PA, as long as they have a financial need, and he'd like to leave that to the high school administration to make that determination. So he's working on the shares that I mentioned, and that's going to take a little bit of time. But in the meanwhile, he felt compelled that he wanted to get the scholarship started immediately. So he sent a $40,000 check for us to get deposited. I've already started to work with town on this, and so like to bring this for your approval so we can get the scholarship started. The plan is that this year, he anticipates that the 2,500 shares, which is about $600,000 worth of, I mean, he's an extremely generous man. And he's was a lot of fun to talk to. He anticipates be about $30,000 a year in interest. So of the 40,000, he'd like 30,000 to go for like scholarship at the end of this school year.
So one recipient? Or-
That is
Okay.
up to, he said, I'm going to leave that to the administration. They know the students that have a financial need. As long as they have a financial need, I don't care if it's 1 or if it's 10, you take the 30, and as long as they're going into the medical field of some sort to help people. So
Would he be
Yeah,
able to
thank you.
make the journey, or at least maybe do like a video or something?
I didn't
Not
go
know,
that
like-
far. Frank did ask, Mr. Page asked for his information so he could reach out to him as the principal of the high school to thank him. So I don't know if Frank has done that yet. I'll certainly make mention.
Like a Zoom interview?
I think
like,
that's
the
great, 'cause
Recipients be able to
he
like
is
hear
so-
directly from him.
Yeah.
That's an extraordinary
It
gift.
sure is. Yeah. So we just need the school committee to officially approve, accept this scholarship, and the town will set it up and start the process.
I move to accept the $40,000 check for a new scholarship for the William J. Carlisle Scholarship in memory of daughter Roxanne Carlisle.
Motion made by Antonella,
Second,
second by Sarah. Discussion.
thank you.
Yes, very nice.
Extremely
Very
generous.
generous.
All those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. I'll give him a call tomorrow.
Thanks, Pam.
Let him know.
Okay, the final thing on our agenda is the April 3rd, 2025 field trip to New York City to watch the Broadway musical, The Great Gatsby.
So this is a music department field trip set for the spring. They hope to have up to 90 students join them. So that would be almost our entire music department. I think the band's somewhere around 60, 70. Chorus, you add in another 25. Am I right, Manny? Somewhere in there?
Are you going on the trip?
Going on it?
I'm going on the trip.
All right, nice. And so it's not only a day where they get to take in New York City and see the Broadway musical Great Gatsby. They also have a workshop prior to seeing the musical for about an hour or so with the actors who will then be performing later that day in the musical. So it's
Cool.
pretty exciting.
Oh,
Show the price. Oh, right here, sorry.
questions? Comments?
I think it's a great opportunity for our kids to be able to go out and do this. I mean, I wish it wasn't so much money, but
Actually, 175.
Yeah.
I know,
Oh,
but
wow.
it is. I mean, for the bus
Yeah,
and the,
yeah,
and the
yeah.
ticket, but
And they may, if they get approval, they'll be able to do some fundraising.
okay. I mean, is there any kind of plan for students that are able to pay?
There's always
Don't
a
wanna go.
plan that if students aren't able to participate and like to participate.
Okay.
So,
I move to approve the April 3rd, 2025 field trip to New York City to watch Broadway musical The Great Gatsby as presented.
Motion made by Sarah. Second by Amy. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That carries 5-0.
Thank you. Let Mr. Henry know.
Excellent.
Annie, have fun.
I know, that was great.
Okay, with that, we have come to the end of our meeting. Did you have something?
One more question, sorry. Going back to advertising. I just feel terrible. The dugouts now have been vandalized twice since they've been built. I feel as if we need to have a plan because some of those funds did come from local advertisers and now had graffiti on them 2 times.
What do you propose?
We have cameras on the outside of the building, but they don't face that area.
The cameras don't have that range.
No, that's what I mean. They don't have that range.
The cameras
We're not gonna
that are
monitor them.
proposed
Yeah.
for new building here.
We let them get ruined.
No, I'll put it out there.
That kind of range, but you'd have to upgrade most of the cameras
Yeah,
on the
you pick up
outside.
those- After you pick up the signs.
Anyway, watching.
I just feel
It's terrible.
like for anybody who's investing back into the community to have what they've put back into the community be defaced, not once, but twice,
Yeah.
and not complete. Like there's plans for beautiful artwork by local artists to go on the back of those. That's,
Can we have Chief Williams just send a car by once in a while just to start that process?
We've talked with our school resource officer, but the unfortunate thing is the cameras are probably your best deterrent, but they're not infallible.
well, they're not.
Because we have graffiti here and we do have a camera that faces the athletic stadium, and unfortunately it doesn't necessarily always pick up.
Can we put out like some kind of reminder to students, like through the principals saying like, remember, like if you deface school I mean, those are school property, right? That was our condition.
Property.
When you build these, they then, as a result of being on school property, become purview of the school district. So I just feel bad, like
No, I understand. And there is some lighting out there. I don't think there's a lot of.
there's not a lot by the fields. By those fields, there's more by the soccer fields.
So they have another project in mind. I don't know if they've mentioned that
Yeah.
to you. I don't know if within that we could think about lights on both dugouts to help light up the area.
Yeah.
I think that's more of a reasonable response than cameras on. But I mean, we have dugouts out here. Who's gonna watch?
Light kind of thing.
Ocean light, or
Oh, yeah.
maybe,
Or just lights on,
Yeah.
It's a sidewalk there. So like the sidewalk.
They have those like solar power ones.
yeah,
They're like,
We like.
maybe
Like
just.
that, yeah, no,
The principals reminding folks.
Yeah, I mean, the
Property
important
kids
part is
feels.
1 or 2 or 3 individuals to send it out to
But,
every kid.
but those 1 or 2 or 3 individuals are potentially harming property that is going to be used by more than 1 or 2 or 3 individuals.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it's still up there now, like it's
yeah.
unfortunate, like. And they're going to become the varsity fields for the short term.
Yeah.
Like in terms of their use and stuff, so I don't know. Just figure like if they're in process of being built, we should be doing something to stop that before they are finished and have that artwork on them.
So, we've already been discussing with IT what if we would be able to upgrade over there in terms of cameras, and we can continue that discussion and,
Who's gonna watch all these cameras? We have, how many cameras in the district, Gordon? Watch this, wait till you hear this.
I
number.
don't,
I don't
You
know.
know? Hundreds. It's like, what are we watching? It's craziness.
So
but then what about like what we do for the vape detection?
Hmm.
If somebody's out there, it triggers it. Like if someone's out there past a certain time, like,
How expensive that system was?
I
That's
think
what I'm saying.
it's reasonable to start with some lighting,
Yeah.
just some basic lighting if possible. And
Yeah.
then if we continue to see
Can you
the
have a
trend,
conversation with Chief Williams? See
I mean, I just,
thoughts as well, maybe.
between July and October to have something vandalized twice.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a short amount of.
No, and
time
it's
to
new.
have something
Yeah,
that's
that's the point. Agreed.
it is just,
disappointing, and it deters people from wanting to redevelop back into.
Yes,
Right.
right. No, we should take care of it.
And now that it's on school property. Thus,
Okay.
I want to think when in the spring, the activity is going to increase, and so that may be a deterrent, but it's in this timeframe where
Right, 1 o'clock. in the
don't
morning.
have the
That's
activity.
happening,
Yeah.
you know.
I'm just thinking that we don't get, we do have graffiti every now and again on high school.
but this is a short time span
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
to have the same.
Right, but because it's not that common, to Gordon's point, this too shall pass, probably.
I think that's a higher risk little thing though. Like, no, you have
Because
to
it's
be
out
very
there.
emboldened to go up to your high school and graffiti it, but that's kind of less like
It's right in the.
kids would be more apt to do it on something like,
Well, let's
Stand alone.
on Chief Williams' radar if we could,
Okay.
get some ideas from him perhaps, get future plans for lighting. We'll talk about to the group about their plan and maybe that would include some lighting.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
I do know
Oh.
software
And I'll-
for running
bring a
these
chair and
new
sit.
cameras, expensive.
your lawn chair.
Right.
I'll
hold my
it's a-
son.
The new buildings.
After I get approval for
Cameras
it.
that go 360.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm only thinking.
graffiti.
on cameras.
Yeah, no, I know.
It runs the whole time.
But I know that in terms of keeping the cost down
Those are more
and
expensive.
running the behind the scenes management of the cameras, that software is pretty expensive. And so then it would be an annual budgetary cost
Mhm.
for either the IT department or the school department.
Could I say one thing? Sorry, completely
Yeah.
changing topics just for one last thing. I was really happy to see the signage and with the attendance messaging
Oh,
at the drop offs. It was really nice and the consistency across and everything. I just wanted to make mention of that. I thought that was great.
thank you. I will mention that on Thursday because that's that just came in. We were
Great,
excited.
looked good.
Anything else? No.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. All awesome points. Thank you. I would take entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Sarah. Second by William. Discussion. Aye.
I.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We are adjourned.